Chioma used to live like a queen. Her mornings began with cappuccinos brought to her bedside, spa appointments at noon, and evenings spent shopping in luxury boutiques around Victoria Island. Her husband, Ton, was a successful marketing executive who spoiled her without restraint. From weekend getaways to designer handbags, Chioma lacked nothing until everything changed. When Ton was laid off from his job after a corporate restructuring, the golden days came to an abrupt end. At first, Chioma pretended to be supportive. She reassured Ton with soft words and half-hearted encouragement, but her actions soon betrayed her. She began to complain about everything: no more brunches, no new shoes, no girls' trips. Ton did his best to keep their heads above water, picking up freelance jobs, selling off his gadgets, even borrowing from friends. But to Chioma, love without luxury was a prison. "I didn't marry you to suffer," she snapped one night after he served her dinner on chipped plates. That statement became the beginning of the end. Chioma didn't have to look far for a new shoulder to lean on. Michael, Ton's childhood friend and best man at their wedding, had always been around, charming, smooth-talking, and suspiciously well-dressed for a man who didn't seem to have a stable job. He had once told Chioma, "A beautiful woman like you deserves a man who can keep up." Back then, she thought he was joking. But now, his words echoed like a prophecy. As Ton struggled, Michael became a daily presence, offering rides, dinners, and luxury she thought she had lost. One evening, after Ton failed to return with the rent money, Michael showed up with a bottle of wine and an envelope of crisp notes. "You shouldn't suffer because of someone else's failures," he whispered. In a haze of frustration and need, Chioma crossed the line. She packed her bags the next morning, leaving behind a teary-eyed Ton who begged her to reconsider. "You'll regret this," he warned. But Chioma, blinded by glitter, laughed. "Regret doesn't wear Prada." Chioma moved into Michael's palatial duplex in Lekki, stunned by its opulence. The marble floors, scented candles, imported curtains, it was everything Ton's dwindling apartment was not. Michael pampered her like royalty. There were spontaneous trips to Dubai, dinner parties with Lagos elites, and a wardrobe full of Ankara couture blended with foreign designer pieces. Chioma posted every bit of it on Instagram with captions like, "Soft life only." But while the house was beautiful, it had strange rules. Chioma wasn't allowed in the basement. Michael often left at night, returning with bloodshot eyes and smelling of strange herbs. "Business," he would say vaguely. She ignored it. After all, a man must have secrets. What mattered was that the money flowed and the lifestyle returned. Ton was forgotten, just another mistake in her rearview mirror. One night, while Michael was away, Chioma heard voices coming from the basement. They weren't loud, but they were unnatural. Chanting. Rhythmic. Like something out of an old Nollywood movie. She tiptoed downstairs and placed her ear against the locked door. Her body froze. The chant was in a language she didn't understand, but the tone, ominous and dark, made her blood run cold. The next morning, she asked Michael what she heard. He laughed it off. "My security guys were watching a traditional movie," he said. "You know they love all those spiritual nonsense." Chioma laughed along, though uneasily. The doubt was a crack, and once it formed, her mind began to piece together other oddities: the bruises on Michael's hands, the missing maids, the midnight visitors who never spoke. Ton sat alone in his one-room apartment in Ajigono. The betrayal crushed him more than his job loss ever did. He watched the love of his life walk away without looking back, right into the arms of his closest friend. Days blurred into nights. His beard grew out, his clothes hung loose. Friends tried to check on him, but he withdrew into silence. "She was my everything," he murmured to the mirror one night. "And he was my brother." But pain has a way of revealing strength. Slowly, Ton began to rebuild. He started driving an Uber, then picked up a remote digital marketing contract with a foreign startup. He moved into a small but neat flat and spent his evenings learning new skills online. He didn't block Chioma or Michael. He watched them from afar, each post, each party, each display of wealth, waiting. Chioma eventually disobeyed Michael's warnings. One rainy afternoon, he was gone longer than usual. Curiosity got the better of her, and she used a bobby pin to unlock the basement door. The stench hit her first: blood, ash, incense. Then her eyes adjusted to the dim light, revealing a small shrine littered with animal skulls, red cloth, and wooden idols. At the center was a framed photo of her. She stumbled back, almost screaming. That was when she heard the door slam behind her. Michael stood there, face unreadable. "You weren't supposed to see this," he said softly. She trembled, too stunned to speak. Michael reached for her hand gently, but there was something sinister in his smile. "Now that you have, you'll understand why I give you everything." After that day, Chioma tried to act normal. She laughed, cooked, wore her expensive outfits, and played the role of trophy queen. But she was constantly on edge. Her questions grew sharper, her movements more cautious. Then the housemaid, a wheel, disappeared. One day she was there, giggling as she ironed clothes. The next day, Michael said, she went home. Family emergency. But Chioma found Awil's phone under the bed. That night, she tried calling her. The line rang and rang, then cut off. The next morning, the line was disconnected. Chioma's heart pounded as she remembered the chants, the shrine, the photos, the blood. She began to suspect the truth, but the truth was too dark to admit even to herself. That night, Chioma had a dream. She was running through a forest, barefoot and bleeding. Behind her, shadowy figures chanted in a language she didn't understand. Suddenly, Ton appeared and shouted, "Run before he uses you." She jolted awake, drenched in sweat. The house was dead silent, but she felt like something was watching her. Her reflection in the mirror looked off. Her face, but somehow hollow. She called her mother the next day. "Mama, I think something is wrong with Michael." Her mother was quiet. "I warned you about leaving your husband. You left love for lust. You better pray it's not too late." Chioma cried silently. For the first time, she wished she had stayed. But pride is a heavy chain. She was trapped, and Michael was tightening the grip. While Chioma was slipping deeper into fear, Ton was rising. He launched a marketing agency with a foreign partner he met online. His services began trending among Nigerian startups. He gave motivational talks about resilience and heartbreak, never mentioning names but pouring out his truth. His story caught fire. He was featured in online business magazines. Clients poured in. Even his Uber driver side hustle became a viral campaign when he donated half his earnings to orphanages. He still missed Chioma, but he no longer needed her. He prayed for her. "God, wherever she is, protect her," he whispered one night. "Even if she broke me, I don't want her destroyed." That prayer may have been the only protection standing between Chioma and the horror she was living in. One night, Chioma woke to find Michael not in bed. She followed faint footsteps to the backyard and saw him dressed in red robes, standing in a circle of fire and herbs. A goat bleated weakly beside him. Before she could scream, Michael looked at her. His eyes glowed red in the dark. "You were never just a woman to me, Chioma," he said, voice deep and layered. "You are my key." Chioma fainted. When she awoke, she was in bed, and Michael acted like nothing happened. But she knew better. Her days were numbered. Something ancient and terrible was coming for her. She had chosen gold over love, and now, she would pay in blood. Desperate for answers, Chioma left the house one afternoon while Michael was out. She disguised herself in a wrapper and old t-shirt and took a kiki to the outskirts of Lagos, where her aunt had once introduced her to a powerful prophet. The moment the man laid eyes on her, he gasped. "You carry the mark of sacrifice," he said. "You are living in the house of a ritualist, and he has already begun the process." Tears flooded Chioma's eyes. "Please help me," she whispered. The prophet nodded solemnly. "You must leave that house tonight. If you sleep there 3 more nights, your soul will not return." He handed her a bottle of oil and gave her prayers to chant. "Only the God of mercy can deliver you now." As she left the church, she realized how far she'd fallen, from high heels and champagne, to fear and anointing oil. Chioma returned home with a fake smile and trembling hands. She knew she had to plan her escape carefully. Michael controlled everything, the gate, her phone, even the staff. She began hiding money in a flower vase and memorizing the security routines. She cleaned the house extra well to avoid suspicion and waited for the right moment. Meanwhile, she messaged her cousin, Ada, from a new SIM card she bought at a roadside stand. "Come get me this Friday by 2 a.m. I'll be by the back fence," she wrote. Ada didn't ask questions. "I'll be there." Chioma counted the days like a prisoner awaiting freedom. She had once left a good man for a charming devil. Now, she prayed she could make it out alive. Friday came. At 1:55 a.m., Chioma slipped out of bed and tiptoed toward the back door. She wore a black dress and carried only a small bag with cash, her Bible, and the anointing oil. The house was dead silent. She reached the back fence and saw Ada's headlights flashing 3 times, just like they planned. But just as she climbed the fence, she heard a scream from inside. "Michael! Chioma!" he roared. She didn't look back. She leapt over the fence, cutting her tie on the barbed wire, and rolled into the grass. Ada threw the car door open, and Chioma dived in. As they sped off, Michael stood at the gate, his eyes glowing red in the darkness. "Run," he whispered. "But I will find you." Chioma stayed hidden for days in Ada's house in Ibadan. She turned off her phone, blocked Michael on every app, and avoided windows. But the nightmares followed her. She saw blood in her sleep, voices chanting her name, and Michael laughing in a room full of fire. Ada called her pastor, and they began daily prayers. Each day was a battle between fear and hope. One morning, Chioma looked at herself in the mirror. Her face was pale, her eyes hollow. "This is what greed did to me," she muttered. She thought of Tond. His quiet kindness. His simple meals. His laughter. She felt shame rise in her throat like bile. "I don't deserve forgiveness," she said. "But I'll try to find it anyway." Chioma debated for days before writing the message. She deleted it 5 times. Finally, she sent it. "Tond, I know I don't deserve your attention. But I need to say I'm sorry. Not because I want anything, but because I was wrong. You didn't deserve what I did. I left love for a lie. Please forgive me." She didn't expect a reply. But Tond responded with a single line. "I already forgave you the day you walked away. I just prayed you'd survive long enough to realize it." Chioma wept. For the first time in weeks, she slept without fear. One morning, Chioma's story took an unexpected turn. A call came in from Ada's friend at a media house. Michael had been arrested. During a raid on a suspected ritual den in Ikeja, authorities found evidence linking him to multiple missing persons, including Awil, the maid. He was paraded on national television, still grinning, even in handcuffs. "I only gave them what they wanted, money, power," he said to reporters. Chioma collapsed on the floor, crying, not from fear, but relief. The nightmare was finally over. Her name came up in the investigation, but only as a survivor. The authorities praised her for speaking out. For the first time in a long while, Chioma felt the sun on her face without flinching. Chioma returned to Lagos with Ada's help. She couldn't go back to luxury. She moved into a small self-contained apartment and started selling handmade accessories online. Every morning, she lit a candle and prayed. Not for money, not for fame, but for peace. The kind Tond once gave her so freely. One afternoon, she walked past the restaurant where she and Tond had their first date. She paused, staring through the window. How had she thrown it all away for glitter that turned to blood? Her heart ached with regret, but she knew one thing: she was no longer the same woman. She was learning to live with less, and strangely, she was happier. Tond reached out weeks later. He invited Chioma for coffee. It was awkward at first. She wore simple jeans and a top, he wore his usual clean shirt and smile. They talked about life, pain, survival. She didn't beg, and he didn't blame. They just shared silence, laughter, and healing. I don't know if we can ever go back, Chioma said quietly. Ton nodded. Maybe not. But we can move forward, even if it's in different directions. She smiled. Even if it's just as friends, I'll take it. For the first time in years, their conversation had no lies, no tension, just truth. Months passed. Chioma's business grew. She began speaking to young women about the dangers of materialism and making choices out of desperation. Her story went viral online, and women from across the country reached out. Your pain saved me, one DM read. Chioma cried. She never got back with Ton romantically, but their friendship blossomed into something pure. They supported each other, grew side by side, and often met for tea to reflect on how far they'd come. Michael remained in prison. His case became a lesson for many. But Chioma no longer feared his shadow. She had found light. 1 year after escaping Michael's house, Chioma stood in front of a packed conference hall, giving a talk titled When Glitter Turns to Blood. She wore no designer labels, no diamonds, just a flowing Ankara gown and a confident smile. She shared her story not to gain sympathy, but to offer wisdom. Don't trade loyalty for luxury, she said. Sometimes, what you think is gold is just painted death. In the crowd, Ton clapped proudly. Their eyes met, and she smiled. Not everything broken had to be fixed, some things just needed to be reborn. And Chioma was finally, gloriously, reborn.